Welcome to Behind the Book. It's time now for Behind the Book, hosted by Tess Thompson and Karen McQuestion, two authors with a passion for books, no filters, and limitless curiosity. Join them now to find out the real story behind your favorite books and authors. And now, Behind the Book.
Welcome to Behind the Book with Tess and Karen. I'm here with Karen. We had a very fun guest on today, one of my author besties, Jami Davenport. But before we get into that, what is new with you?
Well, I was afraid you would ask that because the answer is not much. Although I started another novel and the beginnings are always excruciatingly slow for me. I feel like I'm laying tracks and trying to figure out the characters' personalities and setting up the premise. And so once I get past the first third or fourth of the book, then things start to pick up. So I'm getting almost to that point. And I also have a title which my son immediately said is the worst title in the world. So it will probably be changing. So you know how you'll say a title, and I'm not married to the title.
Right.
But it's like, this is what it says on the top of the Microsoft Word document. So I keep referring to it as that.
Yeah.
And he's like, that is awful. That is just terrible.
Well, at least you have people who will tell you the truth in your life.
It's true.
That's why we have children. They always feel somehow compelled to tell us exactly the truth.
Do your kids ever, on Facebook, how millennials will be like, it's my mom's birthday and my mom is my hero. She was always there for us and she was always this and that. When I was sick, she'd sit by my bed and on and on. And I hope if I grow up to be half the woman she is, I don't even know this person and be like, she was an okay mom, but do I ever get that? No, I can answer that right away. No, do your kids do that?
No, they're still, but they're younger than yours, so they're still embarrassed by me. Mortified. And
well, you are a little embarrassing.
Yeah, first of all, yes. And sadly, I don't even try to be embarrassing. My dad actually tried to embarrass us, on purpose. But anyway, no, I can't see them ever really doing that in the future. Maybe the younger one, but definitely not the older one.
It's not going to happen. Well, and when they get together, their favorite thing is bringing up some anecdote of something. I'll tell you one specific one. Once we were at the movie theater. I'm taking my 3 kids to the movie theater. And as we're walking to the movie theater, I opened a door. I'm like, come on. And I had opened the door to the janitor's closet.
Okay, well, that's a good one. You can't blame them for going back on that one.
And in my defense, it was right next to the theater door. But okay, I have heard that story so many times about the time Mom opened the door. And then they reenact it.
Oh, God, that's so
with the
funny.
way
The reenactment is a whole new level. Oh, my God,
man.
that's
So
funny.
I'm like, could you remember something good that I did once? Anything at all? Oh, man.
Okay, but at least that was kind of cute. My kids always go on, remember when you forgot to pick us up? Or do you remember when you sent me to school for pajama day and it wasn't pajama day and I was mortified?
Did you really do that? Is this a true thing?
That's a true thing.
Oh, my God.
And
okay, I just opened the wrong door.
Yeah, no, I did. Oh, I guarantee you I've done way stupider things. And I can't remember exactly what it was with the pajamas, but it was when Emerson was in preschool. So she was 3. And I think that she told me it was pajama day. And I'm such a ding that I was like, okay, she's probably right. Because, the kids keep track of these things.
Why wouldn't I trust the 3-year-old?
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's what the argument is now. They're like, why would you trust a 3-year-old? Anyway, she went there and I didn't really remember it being that traumatic, but she mentions it quite often now that it traumatized her.
They're all going to therapy.
Exactly. Anyway, all right. Well, we have a great guest on. She writes sports romance, so that was kind of fun to hear a little bit about how she decided to write sports romance. But she also had some answers to questions that we haven't heard before. So,
absolutely. The very last question in the interview I looked at you. I didn't know if you caught my eye, but I was like, oh, we have never heard someone say that.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. And she had kind of a different process for writing novels as well, which I thought was really, really interesting.
Yeah, I did too. So anyway, without further discussion from the peanut gallery known as Tess and Karen, we will let you listen to the interview. Enjoy the show. Welcome to Jami Davenport, one of my author besties. She's here today to talk about her books. She writes sexy contemporary new adult and sports romances. She lives on a small farm near Puget Sound with her Green Beret turned plumber husband, a Newfoundland drool monster, and a prince disguised as an orange tabby cat. Welcome, Jami.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Oh.
And happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. Yes, as we record this, it is my birthday, so it's kind of a treat to have two of my favorite people all together here. It's almost like having a birthday party, except that we're not all in the same room. And there's no booze.
Yeah, I know. Well, there could be.
There could be, yeah. Anyway, Jami, it's great to have you. Tell us a little bit about your path to publication. This is going to be a weird interview for me because I know all the answers to these questions probably already, although you never know, you might surprise me. So tell us about your path to publication and also what drew you to sports romance.
I actually wrote my first book when I was 5 and I still have it. So I've been writing all my life. And then as a teenager, I wrote sports romances, you know, the usual nerdy girl gets the football star, that kind of thing. Anyway, fast forward, I started writing a fan fiction novel in 2000 and got so much praise for it that I started trying to get published. I joined RWA, did all that. I got my first publishing contract in 2008 on what was a small town romance, actually. Then in 2010, I published my first sports romance, and it's been mostly sports romance ever since. I went indie in 2014, but I had a day job, really demanding day job, that where I worked, you know, sometimes I worked 24 hours straight, and I wasn't able to consistently put out books. So I finally was able to take early retirement in 2018, and now I write full time.
I'm curious, did you take early retirement with the thought that you wanted to write full time? Was that part of the decision?
Sometimes fate or God or whatever you believe in pushes you to do something you would never have the guts to do. And they changed. I loved that day job until they changed management. And it became such an unhappy place to be for everyone there that I kind of felt like I pushed myself to retire early. Yes, I kind of did it to write full time, but I also did it for my mental health. Writing full time has been a dream of mine since I was a child, but I never truly ever thought I'd do it. So every once in a while, I do have to remind myself that, wow, I am doing this thing I thought I would never get to do.
Now, I'm always wondering when people write long series, is this something you plot out ahead of time or does it just unfold for you?
I do some plotting. I have team names ahead of time, and I'll have all the team members plotted out as far as who they are, what they look like, some little quirks of theirs. And then I start seeding some of the players into the first book so that readers get interested in reading their book when it comes along. But as far as plotting the actual books or anything like that, I don't. And I never know how many books I'm going to put in a series. I just write them until I'm either really tired of them or the last book I wrote doesn't sell as well as the other books in the series.
What does a writing day look like for you? Are you an outliner?
No, not at all. And I'm not a pantser because I hate that word. I'm an organic or a discovery writer is what I prefer to say. That you discover the book as you write it. And a writing day for me, my ideal day, which never rarely happens, is I get up at 8, check my numbers, check a few things, and then I do my writing from 8 or 9 to noon. That rarely happens, but that would be hopefully what my writing day should be.
How long does it take you to write a novel and what's a comfortable pace? Do you use like the word count as a guide or how do you do it?
I do word count. I use, I can't think of what it's called, Pacemaker Press. And I actually have that all planned out, how many words I have to write to finish the book by a certain time. And I'm a binge writer. I only write under pressure. And I just recently took Becca Syme's class, and she actually told me that was just me and I couldn't change it. So I put books on long pre-orders. It forces me to write them. I end up writing them the month before or 2 months before they're due. So it takes me about a month to do a rough draft. I layer for 2 weeks. It goes to the editor, and then it comes back. I do edits, and then it goes to a proofreader. So it takes me about a month and a half to write the book.
Did you say you layer for 2 weeks? Is that the word you used?
Yeah, I have discovered that I don't like plotting, and I don't like writing the plot part of a book. So I'll write a skeleton, and all it is plot. And then the fun part for me is I go back and I do ideally 2 layers, and I put in the emotions and the descriptions and everything that I flesh it out. Everything that makes it come alive happens in the second and third layer.
Oh, that's fascinating. You used another term. You talked about, did you say seeding? Like in
Yeah,
the first book?
Yeah.
I've never heard it called that before. I'm pretty sure I know what that means, but if you don't mind explaining what you think
It's like
means.
planting seeds of different things going on with different characters. In one series, I had a set of 4 guys that started out as rookies. And in the first book, one of the players had a mysterious girlfriend. And nobody had ever met her. Nobody knew what was going on with her. And by the 4th book, people wanted to know who is she? Is she in witness protection? What's going on? So that I seeded him and the mysterious girlfriend in for 3 books.
Yeah, that was genius.
I love
have
that.
to say.
It makes readers. Yeah, it makes readers want to read your series if you seed characters in. And I've been doing that for a long time, and it's been relatively successful. In fact, I think when people talk about marketing, I see it as a marketing tool.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Because it makes people want to read the books.
Yeah. Yeah. And having some sort of overarching secret or mystery definitely keeps them coming back. Yeah, absolutely. So what do you do to feed the creative well?
Tess knows this. We RV. We're both retired. We're RVers. We're gone a lot. We travel mostly around the state. We're actually heading to Oregon tomorrow. So we do that. We vacation a lot. We go a lot of places. I'm a social person. I'm one of those writers who's actually an extrovert, and I have to have my people. So we go out a lot. We're not really good at staying at home, though COVID has changed that considerably. We've stayed home way more than we ever used to. So that's pretty much what we do. And I find I have to take a break between books. I can't just jump from one to the other. I can't do it. So it could be a week, 2 weeks. I took 3 months off between the one in November and the one I'm working on now. It kills your sales to do that, but sometimes you just need it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So on days when the words just aren't coming, what do you do? Is there a strategy you employ to get over the hump?
I have 2 strategies. One is because I'm always on pre-order, and when I finally write the book, I have to write the book. I have an app called Cold Turkey I use, and it locks everything down on your PC until you finish a certain amount of words or a certain amount of minutes. That has worked really well for me lately. I can actually get my words in every day by just using that. But one of the other things I've been successful with is if I'm stuck, it's usually because I don't really understand the characters well enough. And I will write the character's history as if the book is over. So in first person, I'll write this character as if he's writing a report for a school or something on what he did last summer, that kind of thing. But it will start when the book would have ended. And then he'll just describe what happened in his childhood, and then get up to what happens in this book. Normally, I get a page into something like that, and I never have to finish it because all of a sudden I'm inspired or I discover something about them. So I write what the character's thinking essentially after the book is over.
That's interesting. Okay, that is something I did not know that you did. So
yeah.
I'm learning something new about you. All right, so something I do know about you, because when I first started in the indie world, you helped me more than anybody. And just like literally, she sat down with me and like helped me figure out how to format books and load them onto the platforms. I mean, everything, 101. So I know you're good at the author business part of this career. What's your favorite part of it? I know
I
that you're a technical person with your background in IT,
I
but
love
what
the
about the
business
business side,
side. In
marketing, and
fact,
that sort of
I
thing?
could probably do the business side and almost never write. But oddly enough, I don't care for like doing Facebook ads. So that's kind of a weird thing when you think about it. You think I'd love those too. But as far as my favorite part, I have to say it was what I mentioned earlier, the layering when the book comes alive. It's the part where I feel like finally the book that I thought was horrible is finally, oh, this is actually not bad. And the other thing would be the readers. I think the readers make it all worth it. I mean, I just heard from somebody who said that their mom had cancer and reading my books got her through her mother's cancer and her death. And, you know, stuff like that makes you cry and tear up. And I'm sure we all have stories like that. So, yeah, that's what makes it worth it.
Now, readers often comment about how well you write from the male point of view. Do you have a theory about why that's a strength of yours?
I have no idea other than I think I've invented this weird type of fiction where it's men's fiction for women, if that makes sense. I truly enjoy the male point of view better than the female. And I think it's because I write sports romance and I really get into the athletes and how they think and how much work it is, you know, what the locker room talk is, all of that. And I don't know why. I just enjoy it. I just enjoy it. I really love writing. My single dad books usually do my best. I do the best. But why that is, I've asked myself that, and I actually don't have an answer.
So it's not like you have 8 brothers or anything.
No, I have no brothers. And I was raised by a single mother. My dad died when I was 3, so I don't it may be that. And actually I asked a friend of mine once who was a mental health therapist why I preferred to write the male point of view and that kind of thing. And she said, I think you're rewriting history.
Especially with the single dad element to it. Yeah. Ooh, that just gave me goosebumps. So at what point do you share a work in progress? Who are your first readers?
You know, I don't do betas. Um, I long ago abandoned critique partners. I have a developmental editor, and she is the first one that reads it. And then I go over it, and then it goes to, if I have time, it'll go to a copy editor. If not, it goes to a proofreader. So it's my developmental editor that I work with, and I trust the most.
And do you find that the longer you're writing, the less need there is to like restructure a book? That the developmental editing part of it is just kind of fixes and that kind of thing?
You would hope, but last year I wrote 2 books that when she got them, they were completely torn apart, but the other 2 were fine. So I wish that that was the case, but sometimes, I don't know, sometimes what I write isn't what the mainstream would like, and she has to change it because I tend to think differently than a lot of people.
So do you keep a list of story ideas as you think of them?
Yes, I have a long list in OneNote. Tess knows I keep everything in OneNote. And I have a list of story ideas in OneNote. And if I hear something on the TV or read a news article or anything, and I think, oh, that'd be a good story, I'll just jot it down.
That's a good system.
That is a good system. Yeah. And she is the OneNote queen. Like she keeps
I am.
everything organized. I mean, it's like pictures and links and setting ideas and everything. It's really cool. All right. Do you have any doubts about a book as you're writing or even after it's finished?
When I'm in my first draft stage, and I think we've discussed this, it's the, oh, I'm at this book sucks stage. It's horrible. Yeah. I feel that way on every book. Usually when they're done, I feel good about them. If I didn't feel good about them, I would hope I would fix them or not publish them. But usually I feel really good about them by the time I'm ready to publish them.
So what writing advice can you offer to those just starting out?
I think based on my past history, I think the best thing is to learn your process and guard it religiously because people will tell you, you have to plot this way. This worked for me. It has to work for you. Or they'll do the old, if I can do it, anybody can. And that's not true. And we don't all think the same way. We don't all do things the same way. We don't all have the best strengths. If anybody could do something, we would all be Olympic athletes. We don't all have the same abilities. And while it's lovely to say anybody can do something, okay, maybe you can, but not to the level somebody else can. I might be able to play tennis, but I'm not going to be in Wimbledon. So I think you just have to keep in mind that don't feel bad. It's like saying anybody can write a book a month. Well, maybe anybody can, but should they? Would it be a good book? Would they enjoy it? Would it just be true to yourself? That would be my best advice is learn your process and don't let other people convince you you're doing it wrong, because there is no wrong.
I like that. That's really good. I've never asked you this before. Do you have a writing craft book that you really like that you would recommend?
Well, I love Theodora Taylor's Universal Fantasy. That's a great one. And I love all of Becca Syme's books. My writing craft books tend to be more not how to do it, but how to make a book better. I've tried to read things like GMC and The Writer's Journey, and the way my brain works, I just couldn't do them. I mean, I don't analyze what I'm doing. I just do it. And that comes from being that instinctual type of writer, where if you start analyzing GMC or arcs or, anything like that, you kind of shut down because you naturally do it anyway. And that's something that, it's important for some people to realize if they're that type of writer. That's just who they are.
This is going to sound stupid, but what's GMC?
Goal, motivation, and conflict.
Oh, okay. I've seen that before.
Sorry,
okay.
I should have mentioned that. Yeah.
For a moment, I thought you were talking about a red wine blend.
Oh, you would think wine?
The Ganache Merlot and something or other.
Oh, yeah.
Tessa's mind right away goes to wine.
She goes to wine.
But again, that advice is sort of in line with what you were saying earlier, that, just guard your own process and trust your own instincts. Yeah. And I have been in a craft class with Jami before, and she was like, I hate this. I'm going to shut down immediately. Like I don't know if you remember, but it was like, kind of complicated plot things and stuff. And she was like, I'm out of here. I got to go get some coffee.
Yeah, I remember that. Everybody around us, I love this. And I'm like, this is not, I can't do this.
I found it amusing, but anyway.
I know.
Yeah.
I took one of those classes once, where you color code everything. She had me so screwed up I didn't write for 6 months.
Wow.
Because I can't, it's just not the way my brain works.
Those are those people that use index cards that are different colors, and then they have it all arranged. And I was like, I can't work that way.
Mm-mm.
And there's nothing wrong with people who can.
I agree.
It's cool if you can, but if it's not the way you do things, you don't have to do them that way.
Does your family read your books?
No.
Okay, so that was a quick answer.
No.
Well, and actually, Jami is your pen name. What was the reason you chose a pen name in the first place?
I worked for my bosses were 49 state politicians when I was in my day job, and both sides of the aisle. And I really didn't want them reading some of my books in the sex scenes. I just didn't feel comfortable. And I'm not really sure how it would have gone over with some of the politicians that I worked with. So I worked with both sides. So I chose to keep it a secret. And I kept it a secret up until the day when I worked my last day there, I actually sent an email out and told everybody. And they were shocked. Most of the people were shocked.
Really?
Yeah.
They had no idea that you had a secret life.
They had no idea. Yeah, no idea.
And how many books did you have published by that point?
I probably had 30.
Wow, that's a big secret to keep.
I know. I don't know if I could have done it. I think I might have told.
I'm impressed. Yeah.
I did. I tried to set everything up so that nobody could draw any comparisons, and nobody knew. I mean, there might have been 2 or 3 people that I was friends with that I told, but other than that, no, they did not know. But I'll tell you, when I did tell them, they all thought it was pretty neat. I mean, even the senators I worked with thought it was neat.
What do you wish people knew about the life of an author? Have you encountered any misconceptions?
I think it would mostly have to do with romance. They'll say things you like, why do you write that smut? Or why don't you write real books? Things like that. And it's weird. And at first I just would laugh and say, yeah, well, I'm laughing all the way to the bank. But it started to annoy me lately. And I've actually shut most of them up by saying things like, if I was a male author writing for male readers, would you say these kinds of things to me? And usually they don't know what to say to that.
That's rude.
Because it's really a misogynistic thing.
Yeah.
And you usually get it worse from women than you do from men. The men think it's great, but the women are often the ones that put romance authors down.
Yeah.
Then they probably secretly read them.
Right,
but,
exactly.
But that's the hardest thing, I think, to take is the disrespect.
Yeah, that's true. And even for those of us who write the behind closed doors like I do, I still get that from men in my life, just sort of that teasing, isn't that funny that you write little girl books? And it's like, well, you know what? I'd like to see you try it.
Mhm.
Yeah, really. It's harder than you think.
Exactly.
So, Jami, is there a book that you've wanted to write, but you haven't yet for some reason?
My thing that I would write if I thought I could sell it would be really dark thrillers. I also wrote, and I did write one of the books I really wanted to write. I actually did write, and I called it Gone Missing. And it was kind of a murder mystery novel, which involved a detective agency called Gone Missing, and they look for missing people. And my hope was to write more of them. It sold pretty well, but I don't write fast enough to write more than one series at a time. So I somewhat abandoned it. Someday I'd love to go back and do more, though.
Do you have an ideal reader in mind when you write?
I would say it would be me. I write what I like to read. And my readers usually they like the same things I do. Usually they prefer the book to be the guy's story. And I find that those are the readers I attract. We're readers who like it to be more about the guy than the female.
How consumed are you with the story when you're in the middle of writing a book? Is it always on your mind?
Sometimes if I'm doing the layering part, it will be. When I'm doing the plotting part, which I don't, that's my least enjoyable part. I usually don't think about it if I'm not doing it. Though I will wake up in the middle of the night with some great idea, because they say your subconscious mind kind of works out your problems while you sleep. So I usually keep something by the nightstand because I'll forget it if I don't write it down.
And then do you understand the notes in the morning?
No, not always.
I know, because I've had that problem. Like, what?
Yeah, what was this?
Yeah.
Oh, I have trouble figuring out even when I have not been asleep. And I look back on notes like, what was that?
I know.
All right. Who has been your biggest supporter as you built your craft and career?
Well, obviously my husband. But in the very beginning of being published, it was Lucy Monroe. And she was a member of my RWA chapter here in Olympia. And she was very supportive. And there were several others in that RWA chapter who were extremely supportive of me. And Anthea Lawson is another one. She writes as Anthea Sharp. And now I would say it's Tess. We have a group of 4 authors. Tess, Kelly, and Kat would be my supporters. It's interesting, but during COVID, I found I cut way back on the people that I have as close friends. And I don't know if other people feel that way. It's almost like you kind of gathered the ones you trust in closer and the others you didn't see as much or even speak to as much.
Yeah, that's interesting. I just read this morning that traffic crimes are up since COVID. Like, traffic accidents. It's the highest since 1940 or something. So I don't know. There's something about this pandemic that's made us all a little wonky.
Well, I drove to Seattle on Saturday and I went 75 all the way there. You never go 75 going. Everybody was going 78. I mean, they were passing me.
Yeah, we're in a hurry to get to wherever we're going, I guess, because we've all been home for 2 years.
So, Jami, what is your next release and what are you working on right now?
I'm working on something called Delayed Penalty, and that's my next release. Unfortunately, I can never get ahead. So usually I'm writing what is my next release. And it's a book in my spin-off of my Seattle Sockeyes series. So it's a hockey romance. I often, every once in a while, I didn't mention this earlier, but I showed dressage horses for probably 30 or 40 years. And so every once in a while, the horses creep back into my books. And this one is a hockey player and a aspiring Olympic dressage rider. So they get together, but their problems are that they both have two demanding careers and neither one of them wants to compromise or, give up anything for it. So what do? That's the one I'm working on now. And then I'm starting a new series, which is an expansion team in Portland, Oregon, also hockey. And I was inspired to do that because when the Seattle Kraken, this is their brand new hockey team this year, and it's an expansion team. And there were all these stories of all the different players that got picked up from other teams and moved to Seattle. And they all have these different stories. And I've kind of written down all their little individual stories. And I'm slowly writing. I'm going to write them, even though it won't be them. But, that's kind of been my inspiration.
That's
cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Well, now we've gotten to the part of the podcast where we ask our little fun extra questions at the end. Are you ready for this, Jami?
Yes.
The first one is, what is one food that will never get past your lips?
Brussels sprouts.
Who would you want to play you in a movie?
You know what? I don't know. I really don't know. I would love to have Whoopi Goldberg play me in a movie.
That is an unexpected answer. I thought you were going to say like Sigourney Weaver. I was thinking.
Yeah,
actually,
Sigourney Weaver would be good. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
What superpower would you pick given the opportunity?
I'd love to fly. Then I could go anywhere I wanted, whenever. Just take off. No traffic.
What's your biggest guilty pleasure?
Barbecue potato chips.
Oh, that's a good one.
That is a good one.
What is the worst job you've ever had?
Worst, I'll be perfectly honest, teaching high school. I taught high school for 8 years.
What subject?
I taught business. And it wasn't the kids that were the problem. It was the very poor administration that we seem to have in a lot of our schools. That was the problem. I love the kids.
If you could instantly become an expert in something, what would it be?
Facebook ads.
What's your favorite smell?
Lilac.
I love lilac.
Me too.
What is the most terrifying thing you've ever done?
Jump horses over 3 feet. I lost my nerve after that. When we got up to about 4 feet, I said, I'm done.
Yikes.
Yeah, that does sound scary.
Yeah, that sounds really scary.
What's one thing you're really bad at?
Oh, here's a funny one. I am the most uncoordinated person. I'm horrible at sports.
Oh, and you write sports romances. That's interesting.
I'm a fan. I love watching. I just don't participate.
And our final question, if you could live your life over again, would you want to?
Yes, I wouldn't even change that much. The only thing I would change is I would have gone Indian much earlier than I did. I wouldn't have gone with publishers.
Okay, well, I learned a couple new things about one of my writer besties today. This was super fun. Thank you for being on our podcast. And where can people find you?
JamiDavenport.com or at Jami Davenport on Facebook. And I'm at Jami Davenport on Twitter and at Jami Davenport author on TikTok and Instagram. Everywhere.
All right, well, thanks again. And we'll look forward to hearing what you're up to next.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for having me, you guys.
Thank you for listening to Behind the Book, brought to you by authors Tess Thompson and Karen McQuestion. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and post a question in the comment section. This has been Behind the Book.